on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. He could probably do even a better job explaining what is and is not a podcast. He's Ty Windisch. Ty, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I have a podcast, so anyone can really have a podcast. And I'm not going to weigh into this debate because I don't think there's a way to officially settle it. How about we say the show is available on podcast platforms?
That's what I say. That's what I say, Ty. I love you.
I'm not officially siding with you, though, but I'm just saying
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
that's the Switzerland approach.
Yes. You know what's not the Switzerland approach? Mm-hmm. Whatever the hell Giannis and the Bucks are doing right now is not the Switzerland approach. I'm gonna turn my mic off. I'm gonna turn Tommy's mic off for about 3 hours, and we're just gonna let you talk us through the whole thing.
All right, that sounds good. I'll need the audio then for my podcast too, because I haven't done a new one since the article came out. But
perfect. Enough said.
It is a mess. It won't take 3 hours. I mean, I probably could if, really went through line by line. There was a lot of little random throw-in juicy details in Shams Charania's article this morning, kind of diving a little bit more into the mess that is the Bucks. Ironically, while, of course, the hook is the Giannis situation, really we learned more, I think, about what's gone wrong with Doc Rivers and the Bucks and specific players on the team than we actually did what's going on with Giannis. I think we already kind of know the deal. There was the bit about, him not playing enough games and some Nike bonus or whatever, which, I think Giannis is doing okay financially regardless, but that was in there that, missed out on some additional endorsement money. But basically, both sides are just not on the same page. And this he wants to play thing, the Bucks don't want to let him play thing is the latest manifestation of that. But I think it's more of a symptom than it is like the root cause. Like I think Giannis has felt like basically what we learned in this article, and it's kind of floated here and there for the last however many months since the offseason. He doesn't look at this roster post Dame wave and stretch and Turner bringing in, or really post Dame Achilles. I mean, it's the same result. You're going to have the same amount of Dame this year, but doesn't see it as a contending roster. And he has, to his credit, always said, I want to be here, but I want to win here. He doesn't think he can win here, but he also didn't want to rip the Band-Aid off of like, I'm going to ask out now. I think he kind of tried to like backdoor into it. Like, you're trying to get someone else to break up with you, but maybe they're not on the same page. The Bucks were not interested in breaking up with Giannis. But I think now it just keeps manifesting in all these different ways. And now we've gotten to a point where, he keeps saying like, we can work this out. We'll see. But ownership drew a line in the sand in a different article from Ramona Shelburne a few weeks ago saying, if you don't extend, we're going to have to trade you, big fella.
Right.
Like, we have to look out for ourselves. So I do think we're now seeing kind of a stance change from both sides and how they're dealing with each other. And it's not going well. And I think Giannis is not appreciative of the fact that the team isn't going well, that he hasn't been able to play. They don't want to risk him down the stretch because if he gets seriously hurt, it totally ruins their franchise for the rest of the decade, more or less. And it's just tough, whenever a star leaves like this, it's usually not, we're not all crying happy tears, right? Like, oh, thank God Giannis is gone. And we all wanted to keep him. We all wanted him to win 50 plus games and contend every year. It's hard to do this graciously for either side. But I think we're seeing now, like, the exit is just, it feels more likely than ever to me that it's going to happen this summer, which is too bad. And I just hope it doesn't get any much more uglier than this on the way out, because I don't want, I don't want any more negative feelings. There's already clearly some, I think, but there could be more dirt thrown. I don't think that's much has come from the Bucks side yet. I hope not much more does.
Ty Windisch from the Eurostep and SI.com joining us here on the Mason Crosby. Couple follow-ups to what you just said. What does Giannis not understand the concept of like protecting your asset? And if the team isn't good enough, like why would we be playing you once we're eliminated from the playoffs, knowing that you want to be traded or you don't think the Bucks are good enough? And is there like, did this kind of backfire on him a little bit in terms of like, if he had just been honest and said, this team isn't very good, I have to go elsewhere to win my next ring, I think people would have respected him a lot more for that, for just being honest, as opposed to still to this day playing games with his words and what he means versus what the Bucks mean and the respect he's deserved or showing or whatever that might end up looking like.
I think it's really hard for any of us to really get in his head, right? Like the extraordinary life he's lived, especially from childhood days to making it to the league. So I really try not to. I think it is like I think it's been a very hard thing for him, right? To kind of bring together the two wants, which is want to play and finish my career in Milwaukee, but also don't want to be the guy who retires. Like basically, it seems like he didn't really want to be Dirk, right? Like that's the example of he got the one and then kind of just faded out from there. Like they didn't really go. I think the stat is Carlisle hadn't won a series since 2011,
Oof.
I believe. Like and now
Okay.
obviously had one of those runs with Indiana, but
Right.
there
Right.
they hadn't done it in the tail end of Dirk's career versus basically the KG path of KG didn't get one in Minnesota, but then went and got one and found that other success that lies there. I think he really did struggle with that, and he didn't know for sure his answer, but probably does regret honestly at this point not just kind of pressing that nuclear button, rip the band-aid off, get it over with. The same way, eerie parallel to what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did, which nobody loved
Mm.
at the time, but it was much cleaner, right? He went to the Bucks front office. He said, it's not the place for me. I need to go to one of these other cities. And they made the deal and it kind of just happened. I think everyone now would have preferred that to just get it all over with, so to speak. But here we are. I think for him wanting to play, he also is just a maniacal competitor. I think the other factor too is I'm not sure there's ever going to be another opportunity where he could play in the NBA with two of his brothers. And two of them are playing on the team right now. He's the third one. He rushed back from the injuries earlier this year when that wasn't necessarily at stake. Like he really does just want to play. I don't think there's anything nefarious there, but I do think it shows like, it was framed in the story like the Bucks holding him out is the reason he's not going to play 41 games. He keeps getting hurt is the reason he's not going to play 41 games. And he
Yes.
hyperextended his knee like 3 weeks ago. It's not like we're talking about made up stuff here. But I think he really does just want to play and kind of prove that he's locked in, even if mentally I'm not 100% sure he was ever like fully believing this team was going to make a true run this season.
Should the Bucks have traded him at the trade deadline?
Not if they felt like the offers weren't good enough, and it seems like they didn't. I think it's actually a worthwhile just from a pure asset standpoint to, it's not like the reporting is Miami was one of the closest. I think they'll have more picks this summer because of the way the protections and the Rozier thing and everything. Like, another year opens up of draft picks at the draft. So that's another one. And it may even be compounding for them. So I think you look at it from that perspective of the teams who were in, Golden State's offers basically the same. I mean, it was all their
Right.
picks. They still have all their picks. Miami might have more. Minnesota, I don't know how that will change. I mean, they'd made the trade for Tsunmu, but their offer was always very convoluted because they don't really have any picks. So their thing was like, we got to flip 3 guys here, 2 guys there, and then you get a player and picks. Maybe that's easier to do in the offseason. And now, do you get someone like Houston, who it sounds like they maybe are more interested now, but they weren't at the deadline? So I think no. I think as much as we all, I don't want to talk about this anymore, right? Like we don't want to be in this situation anymore. It is
Right.
such an important transaction that being extremely, just thoughtful and exploring every nook and cranny of what can you get. You just have to get it right because like you traded so much to compete with him, which I think was the right move and fair play on all sides there. But this is really a golden parachute to now get some future assets back so that you're not just going through the rest of this decade. Like we just don't have our own picks really ever. I mean, they have something every other year, but there's like all these double
Right.
swaps and everything. Like you need to get some more stuff back. So we're not, at this win level every year with or without Giannis.
Ty Windisch joining us here on the Mason Crosby Show. Ty, what is the best case scenario Bucks off season?
Wow, great question. I mean, listen, I guess I'm a romantic. I would say they figure it out and they draft at 10. They jump in the lottery. Here's first. How about this? We're picking 2 or 3. We're bringing in Darren Peterson or AJ DeBanza or Cameron Boozer to the squad. This happens. Giannis goes, oh, that's exciting. And now we have 2 future firsts. We have the salaries of Kyle Kuzma, who welcome to the anti-Doc Rivers resistance Kuz per that article today. I thought that was great, but still is a big expiring salary, kind of the necessity of including him in a big money deal. But him and or Portis, 2 future firsts. And now we have Rollins, who I think has taken a real leap forward this year. Re-sign Ousmane Dieng. We have this really promising rookie the Bucks just drafted. You have Giannis. You have Miles Turner, who I think could be invigorated. The other part of it is a new coach, right? Someone who's more fit to, I think, the modern league. Taylor Jenkins has been rumored. Someone like that who clearly showed he can build a winner in Memphis, build a culture. I think things could look a whole lot different than they do right now with those changes. That's pie in the sky, obviously, with the lotto. But I think best case, it is still having Giannis because you need a superstar to win. And there's not, outside of the lottery luck, there's just not a really clear path outside of him. And, again, I don't think it feels nasty right now. I don't know if any true nuclear button has been hit yet. And I would sure love to contend and, be a contending team next year versus a fun rebuild, even if I would enjoy covering both.
Ty, looking at Shams' article today, what were some of those Doc Rivers takeaways? I know after that loss in Chicago, he said, "Look at my resume. Like I've taken bad teams." I mean, I don't know. We've done radio segments before, but we've never really dived into it. I'm a Boston native, so I grew up in Boston. I wear my Celtics and Bucks allegiances proudly, as I do Red Sox, Brewers, Patriots, Packers. Like I will go to the mats with anybody who says you can't be a fan of two fan bases based on circumstance. I mean, I lived in Boston. My dad lived in Boston his entire life. I moved here when I was 14. I went to Nicolay, but I kept my Boston fandom as well. So when Doc Rivers won the championship in 2008, like that was great. But then when he crapped one away in 2010 and basically hasn't won anything since then, like you could say, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer because of longevity, but he's not a Hall of Famer because of anything he's actually done. And then for him to go and say that and then bench Kuzma and all those, this part, it is really ugly. And I think for whatever reason should be even uglier than it is.
Yeah, I think, for Doc, and did just literally become a Hall of Famer. It is, I think his case largely is just the overall list of accomplishments. Like he's wherever he is now in the all-time wins list. He has the championship. I think he's got a coach of the year. I haven't looked, but
he did with the Magic. He at the very beginning of his career, he took a really bad Magic team, and I think he got them to either 41-41 or 42-40, snuck into the playoffs, a team that should have won 20 games. He was great that year. I remember late 90s. That was a long time ago.
That's the thing. It's really hard to stay at that level of coaching. Like the games just change so much. And I think like cross sport, right? Like all the Pete Carroll in Vegas stuff. And, sometimes it's just not your time to be on the cutting edge of the coaching landscape anymore. And I think Doc seems like a overall good person, but I think there's some hubris there, right? There's some like, I am the Hall of Fame guy. I have won the title. I'll won all these games. And it, like you've seen it, like if you watch the post-game pressers or if you guys sit in on them, like really some kind of grading attitude back towards some of the reporters and some of the questions asked, which in my opinion are not out of line questions, but just like, there's just like this resentment. And I think the whole situation, like the team overall isn't as good as it should be, or as we thought, the Giannis stuff, like I think it's kind of just created a pressure cooker. But in terms of the standout stuff, I mean, really it feels like throwing Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. under the bus and kind of, both Doc Rivers and Giannis kind of having these comments about like the selfish young players on the team, which, are those guys perfect? No, but they are two of the best players right now, both making by NBA standards barely any money and contributing more than a lot of the high priced veterans, and really kind of making up for the lost Lillard production. And Kuzma coming in here and saying like, don't take this to heart. Like it seems like they really tore those guys up a bit in these sessions, and then gets benched for it because basically he said, don't listen to what the coach has said, which I get why if you're coaching staff, you don't love that. But also I think Kuzma is the one on the right here. And I think even watching we could talk about stuff that Doc does on the court too, but watching those games, those young guards were asked to do a lot. They're not getting a lot of these modern actions we see when you watch other teams where it feels like there's always someone flying wide open off a screen or a double screen or Spain pick and roll, all this stuff. Like you watch the games, it's a lot of those guys breaking down defenders. That makes it tough. That makes you look selfish. So I think the whole thing's been a mess on and off court. Like I think Turner and Green have kind of been broken down a bit. It's been tough years for them, I think, on and off court. So yeah, I think the coaching change stuff is sorely needed no matter which way the Giannis trade saga goes.
Tommy asked the best question. What's best case scenario? I'm going to ask the rougher question. What is most likely scenario and when?
Yeah. So I think at this point, it's probably going to be a split. And I just think logistically, if you think about it, the ownership has already drawn this line in the sand. But if you want to win Giannis over, you probably have to spend either this year's pick or future picks on win now players, right? Like that's what he wants is like star level players, but he can't functionally sign an extension until October. I mean, you can kind of go over the plan and he can give his word and all this stuff. But now, like, it does kind of feel like trust is eroding. So it gets to a point where I don't think they want to repeat last summer where they did this really aggressive move, Lillard and all the picks to go get Turner. And then Giannis just doesn't like it, right? Like, if you can't really spend all these picks again and he still doesn't like it, and then, okay, what did we just build here for him to not be here? So I think it's just going to be difficult. And I think, again, kind of writing on the wall stuff. I tell people this because the Bucks fans go, oh, they just want him out, this and that. Like, maybe that's true, but I think if this was any other star in any other market and all of these things came out over this long a period of time, you'd be saying he's gone. Like if you put in Steph Curry in the Warriors, you'd say, yeah, he's gone. He's going to be gone. I think that's likely what's going to happen. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where it's like the one team thing and you have to just take whatever they have. Like the Knicks, they just don't have enough. But I think likely, some sort of a list or at least an edict of a good team, a team I believe in. We kind of got yeses and nos at the deadline, like yes to Miami and Minnesota, no to Portland and Golden State, probably something more like that. And then the kind of bidding war and transaction goes from there.
Ty, is there any way he plays Friday night at home with his brothers?
I think there's certainly a chance. And I think honestly,
good.
that
I bought my tickets this morning. So
I think that'll honestly tell you a lot about how this relationship is going to go from here. Because he really wants to. And clearly the Bucks want to be cautious.
You let him play 15. Ty, I think you got to let him play 15 minutes. You got to let him
he's
play
cleared.
With his brothers. Right.
As long as he's cleared, as long as he's actually, that's the thing no one's talking about. It's just this binary, do you let him play or not? If he's actually cleared, I agree with you. I've said all along, if he wants to play a couple games on the stretch at home, go for it. I think that's fine. The tank, whatever. I don't care that much. But as long as you feel good about his health, then yeah, I agree. Let him go play with the brothers, make history, and try to end this really sad season on a somewhat brighter note.
Yeah, and I think the fans would respond accordingly Friday night.
Yeah, I would sure hope so.
I'm ready. I'm ready to give Giannis a standing ovation, and I hope everybody else is too. Ty, thank you so much for jumping on today. Absolutely a blast. As things heat up during the offseason, you are on our speed dial. So thanks so much for jumping on today.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.